Is there supposed to be a certain protocol for people to check in?
No, and I begin with me, and then he can speak, and they can speak for the other generation. But I'm a never, you know what I mean? We don't have time for no sucker shit like that.
Know the reason, but what is the reason why you moved to Houston?
Well, look, first of all, like every time I've experienced Houston, like when I was out here, I ran into random acts of kindness. Like the people have been good to me. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of the places that I'm like, man, or maybe Houston, like Houston or Miami popped into my head. Mm-hmm. They said 58%. I said, what? You my partner? The IRS is my partner now? I don't know. All you get is a Yankee hat? I'm going to Houston.
Sense seems to have recently made a startling revelation that may help explain why his feud with J. Prince and Supreme McGriff's group is far more serious than anyone had previously thought. According to the information he is presenting might be much more serious than a rap feud. Initially, most assumed that 50's refusal to communicate with J. Prince was just another case of ego conflict. However, 50 is publicly suggesting that there was a real plot to have him killed and is naming names. Even worse is the rumored engagement of Supreme's own son, and Rick Ross might even be working with 50's well-known enemies to intensify the conflict. The photos are starting to melt together, especially now that 50 is exposing the connections between J. Prince Supreme's legacy and these understated behind-the-scenes activities. Was this the cause of 50's sudden departure from Houston? Was there a real conspiracy going on behind closed doors? Let's break it all down. It was first done by Houston. That city is run by J. Prince as though it were his own separate company. And artists are expected to check in when they arrive. Although it is portrayed as a sign of respect, many people feel that this is more akin to a shakedown, especially when you take into account who is hurt even after checking in.
Is there supposed to be a certain protocol for people to check in?
No, and I begin with me, and then he can speak, and they can speak for the other generation. But I'm a never, you know what I mean? We don't have time for no sucker shit like that.
When 50 Cent went to Houston, J. Prince expected him to follow the rules, but 50 didn't. He said he had money and security, that he owed no one anything, that he would not observe street codes that he didn't believe in, and that he would not check in. It was the final slap in the face for J. Prince. 50 didn't simply go there for a visit. He made it his home. He said on Twitter, "I love New York, but I live in Houston now." Additionally, people assumed it had to do with taxes, which made sense. There was more to it than just the high taxes in New York and the businessman persona of the 1950s. His intentions were big. With a $20 million G-Unit movie studio and alcohol branding agreements that helped the neighborhood and schools, he was getting everything lined up like a boss. The twist, however, is this. Because he was on J. Prince's property without authorization, without checking in, and without any consideration for the so-called gatekeepers, it was inevitable that he would offend people.
For me to start a new relationship with Houston, I'm excited about it. I had an opportunity. I had a lot of fun things for the kids. I think that they're really going to get a chance to appreciate and enjoy it.
Rumors circulated almost instantly that 50 was being watched and that there was pressure behind the scenes to prevent him from entering certain doors. There were even many who said that crews were waiting to see if he would make a mistake, but 50 pushed harder and refused to give up. Since even those who checked in were still in unpleasant situations, he thought that all of this check-in lingo was just a sophisticated way of stating extortion, and he might be right. We checked in for takeoff, but it was gone. The jeweler, Jacob, was struck despite his efforts to stay low. From the standpoint of the 1950s, why sacrifice resources and power for insufficient defense? He knew what it was. Inauthentic safety. And when you survived what he went through, therefore, don't be scared. The mood abruptly shifted, and 50 quietly left Houston, put a stop to the concept of a movie studio, and relocated everything to Shreveport, Louisiana. It was a silent gesture, but it made a big statement. People were unclear. A real key to this city's streets was handed to him. Why leave now? Houston said once in an interview, "Everything had changed, and Houston didn't feel safe because he didn't embrace me the way I had expected." Despite all of this, 50 was still being recognized. He was the Grand Marshal during the Thanksgiving parade. On November 24th, Houston celebrated 50 Cent Day. The community was cheering, the mayor was showing him love, and one person wasn't applauding: the J Prince.
And so today we have the honor of saying to him, he's our 2022 Grand Marshal. Give it up to Curtis 50 Jackson.
Insiders said that 50 was angry because he felt that he was walking around his city with too much power, too much attention, and no check-in. 50 was stealing control as the emphasis shifted from cloud computing. But just when everything was starting to settle down, Supreme McGriff showed up. If you know the history of the 1950s, you know that's really serious. In the early 2000s, 50 was shot 9 times. Due to 50's release of the song Ghetto Quran, in which he listed names and provided details about Queens Supreme Street legends, people believed that Supreme's crew was involved.
Nigga like 50, there's only 4 niggas that I know personally in Queens that wasn't scared of Preem. 50, E-Money Bags, Homo, and Big Nose Troy.
Supreme didn't take well to it in the streets. It wasn't just a song, it was snitching. Although 50 survived the tragedy, gained notoriety, and used it to build his brand, Supreme suffered a significant setback. He earned a lot of respect because, despite being imprisoned, he never lost his calm. Meanwhile, 50 used the same story in cinema and bar interviews. Ultimately, he never forgot how he turned adversity into prosperity.
You know, I have the resilience to go against anybody. Like, there's nobody that's doing that. Those are the guys that you would choose not to go against at that point. Just in the environment.
Then came the appearance of Irv Gotti, a key figure in this whole situation. Irv was not just cool with Supreme, they were family. Irv backed Supreme by contributing to the cost of his legal defense when things became tough. Don't snitch or turn his back on him. For Supreme, that dedication was essential. At 50, he also ruined Irv's label. When Ja Rule was overthrown by Murder Inc., they were left in the dust. Irv kept posting questionable material online after turning 50. 50 posted this image of himself smoking a hookah with a fake gravestone and a statement after it was revealed that Irv had had a stroke. May God bless that Gotti pack. No, I'm smoking it. One day before the stroke, I wrote, "Damn, I wanted him to see my new shows." That didn't sit well with, if I said I was smoking on your mother and your grandfather, Pack Ninjas would be telling me I'm wrong, right? Before going viral, Supreme's son, McGriff Jr. Instagram. "You all adore this clown," he added, and he called 50 a clown. "I will always provide the same quantity of energy. Nobody can tell me. Nothing. To the ultimate, to treat Irv disrespectfully would be equivalent to treating his family disrespectfully." At this point, things start to become serious. 50 started sharing hints online. Next came the purported disclosure of information by 50 regarding conversations between Supreme's son and J Prince's team. They allegedly wanted to pressure him, set him up, or, even worse, get him out of the way. 50 didn't hold back, and even began making fun of J Prince directly, threatening to appear. Rick Ross entered the scene just when things were becoming too hot. There are countless pictures of lawsuits and family drama from 50 and J Prince's years-long feud. Ross and Supreme don't get along at all, although Ross was recently seen spending time with Supreme's supporters. For 50 people, this seemed like an alliance, even though it might have seemed random to others. For 50 people, Ross's relationship with the son of the man who tried to kill him was proof of courage.
It's for you, man. You the only one in Miami with that, baby. You know the vibes.
This is where the insanity starts. There are rumors that this short meeting was more than just a show. Reports claim that the link-up was a component of a bigger plan to eliminate 50 players. Some reports say that Supreme McGriff Jr. is done being polite because 50 persisted in disparaging JRVGTI online even after his passing. The fact that J Prince is involved raises the stakes much more. Remember, J Prince isn't just upset that 50 didn't check in, he's allegedly trying to make an example of him. Rappers may start to ignore the check-in culture if 50 is allowed to get away with violating the purported conventions. Honestly, 50 Cent might want to keep his eyes open since, upon closer inspection, you start to realize how deeply rooted Jay. Prince's roots are when you look into his past. He is not merely a music executive. This individual reportedly rose through the game's ranks with real contacts and street backing. Even as early as the late 1980s, his name was showing up in government. records, he reportedly had lines from Mexico that went straight to the south, passing through Texas, Louisiana, and maybe Chicago on his way to deliver large commodities. Wasn't trivial, it was global and well coordinated. He allegedly made acquaintances with Larry Hoover, the Gangster Disciples founder, during that time. The entire game was shifted from Houston to the Midwest, which suddenly had a full pipeline with Jay Prince at its center once that connection was made.
This was the idea of my father, seeing that it was connections to Drake and Kanye, and that they were such iconic figures, and with them going through things.
Abruptly, Ropote Records is shown. Despite its appearance as a company, showcasing Houston talent, it was seen in the streets as a front to clean up all that street money. Neither were the feds uninformed. By 1988, after tracking shipments, tapping phones, watching homes, swapping drivers, and coercing allies, the DEA had built a substantial case against JPRs and Rap-A-Lot. And then everything vanished just when it seemed they were becoming near. By the late 1990s, the U.S. Attorney General dismissed the case entirely. Quiet, no fees, no headlines. It doesn't just happen like this, not until you're a big influencer. As we move forward in time, 50C might be stepping on some toes that have been hazardous for many years. And what do you think? 50C is calling it out before something happens? Or is he simply being paranoid? Are they openly displayed power and ego games? Or is there a genuine setup taking place behind the scenes? If this drama continues, you can be sure we'll be here to break it down, so please say what you think in the comments area. Remember that the drama is far from over, so please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications.